everyone. Hope you find yourself having a great day. Got a new Cinema 4D tutorial for you. This one stems from a question asked by one of my subscribers who was wondering how you might go about modeling a round structure. And I guess you could go about that a variety of ways. You could use a cylinder, manipulate its face, and apply different textures to achieve that look. But for this example, I'm going to use blocks that you might see in a typical concrete block construction or a stone construction. And we're going to facilitate that further with some cloners. So let's get started. I'm using Cinema 4D R15. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a block cube into our scene. And with that, I'm going to begin to shape this so that it takes on the look of a concrete block. Concrete block is typically longer than it is wide or high, and so we're going to manipulate this into something that has that similar look, and that's about appropriate. We might go a little less in length, or maybe just a little higher. Let's see if we can do that. Something about like that. Alright, now once we've got that selected, I'm going to hit C, make that editable. And while it's editable, I'm going to grab one of these faces and I'm going to make a bevel on there by right clicking and choosing bevel, and I'm just going to drag out to give a little bevel. Now what this is going to represent is it's going to help simulate a mortar joint that you would find between the stones of where they'd put a masonry mortar. Now, so we don't want to have to do that. We're going to simulate that effect. Go ahead and deselect everything. And what we'll do at this point, we're going to go under MoGraph and select the cloner. And how we use cloners is you just drag your object into the cloner, and at that point it will begin on cloning. We want to change the mode of cloning to a radial, and we want to change its plane to an XZ plane. And if we begin to increase the count and then expand on our radius, you'll see now that we're getting multiple blocks being created for us by this cloner. So I'm going to bump that count up, and I'm going to expand that radius out a little bit. At a certain point, you're going to run into a certain amount of limitations. So you may decrease that size of those blocks, and then later on we'll be able to manipulate this ring to get these joints closer together here. But if we take and go into our cube, what we want to modify is the back side of these cubes so that we don't have this intersection where you see occurring right here. We want to modify the back edges of these blocks. So we're going to hide our cloner, which will make visible our block. We're going to swing around the back side. With our line selection tool, we're going to grab these back lines, shift clicking to get the back lines. So we've got the front and then the two back vertical lines selected. We're going to enable visibility of our cloner again. And with that, what we're going to do is we're going to scale inward. And you see how that manipulates that angle of the blocks? You get in a little closer. We want to change that scale so that our blocks are now parallel. Because they're running in a circle against each other and they're square objects, they have a tendency to want to intersect. So with that having been adjusted, we can now work on expanding that radius out so that our blocks touch each other. If I get a quick render here, you'll see now that we look like we've got a mortar joint in between these blocks. Okay. Again, you can play with expanding your count. But with that, you're going to have to expand that radius. And we'll just keep dragging that out. And with the radius, our angles change. So we'll have to adjust our back side of those blocks again. And get them approximate where they're just about to touch. If you leave a little bit of visible light gap between them, that ambient occlusion or your lighting will help you with making that even more believable. So we're going to disable our cloner, the visibility of it. We're going to select our cube and go back into enable that visibility. And again, we're going to adjust those back angles of these blocks by scaling down so that they're parallel to one another, just like you see here. And at this point, we've got us a nice look. I've got a concrete texture here that I want to apply. I'm going to apply it to the cloner overall rather than to the block. And you'll see that'll give us a nice little render here. We'll add a few lights. I'm going to do a typical 3-point light setup. 1, 2, 3. And we'll take and move these guys around a little bit. I'm going to raise them up some. And I'm going to pick one that I'll apply my shadow to. You know me and shadows. And we'll leave it at that. So if we come in here now at this point, you'll see we've got blocks. They're all parallel to one another, basically shaped as if they've been individually carved. And if we get a quick render here, you'll see now that we've got blocks setting in place. So how would we want to facilitate increasing the size of this structure? Well, that's easy. We're going to control click down and drag and make a duplicate of our cloner. We're going to raise it up. We're getting relatively close here. See that our surfaces are setting just about on one another. Something about like that. And then because blocks have bond joints that are alternating, what we're going to do is we're going to take that cloner, we're going to rotate it so that our blocks have that overlapping bond joint. And again, select control clicking, selecting both of our cloners, then control click drag. We've duplicated that. Now we can simply begin moving these up, verifying our joints on here. Select the whole group of them, control click drag. We've duplicated 4 rows now. And if we take a look, you'll see that as we continue on here and get a quick render. Now what we've done is we've got a stacked bonding wall joint that's going to allow us to mimic the construction of a round wall. Now you can apply these different textures. You can increase and decrease the size, height, width of these blocks. You may make them bricks. You may make a couple of different variations and then apply them with slight deviations into texture, color, hues, and bumps. That way you can have multiple stones inserted in your cloners and formulate some type of a more natural structure when you do this. So it's just a neat way to be able to render something out from Cinema 4D without spending a lot of time in modeling. This way you can get 1 or 2 blocks modeled and use that to facilitate your entire operation that you're working on for your project. So I hope this helped you guys. Remember, if you like, comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.